Welcome. I'm Gigi with 3D Theatricals. I'm so excited that you're here to join us for a session of 3D+U. On behalf of my entire team here at 3D Theatricals, I want to welcome you. You are in for a treat. You are going to sit down with one of the best makeup designers ever. And just one of the sweetest, talented, sweet, darling. And I'm going to hand it over to Denice Paxton.
Hi guys. Today we're going to be doing some fun age makeup. Not on me. I've already aged plenty. I am going to be having a model come in, and I'll be working on her so that I can work and talk at the same time. I'm not going to be paying much attention to the comments or to the video, but Gigi was going to help me out there. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to raise your hand, speak up, whatever the case may be. I'm happy to answer questions as we go along. If you guys want to follow along with me, you're more than welcome to, so that way you guys can work on your technique a little bit. But for the most part, we're going to just jump in, and we're going to make this beautiful woman a little older. So this is Dee. Come on in, Dee. She's going to sit down in the chair.
Thank you, Dee, for being our model today.
Yes, ma'am. So I've actually already started working on Dee. She started with a clean face, because that's what we do every time we do makeup. Clean face, moisturize. I did some foundation that matched her regular skin. And then what I did is, if you can see, if you lean in just a little bit, if you turn this way towards me, you can see here that I've actually already started with the contour so that way we can get ready to do more of the line work. Here we've got, you can see that I actually drew in jowls, because when you do an age makeup, what we're trying to do is we're trying to actually bring some gravity into the face. What ends up happening is, over time, the elasticity in our tissue and our skin starts to loosen, and that's why a lot of people are like, oh, I'm gonna get that chin up. So what we're doing is we're drawing in some of that gravity, so that way you can see that there's a little bit more flesh in there. We've also hollowed out the cheek a little bit. I've hollowed out her temple area, and then also here we've sunken in the forehead a little bit, contoured the nose, made the nose a little bit more bulbous than it normally is, and basically we've got her underset ready to go. So what we're going to do now is, what we're going to focus on is using highlight and shadow in order to create realistic looking wrinkles for the stage. Now I'm going to explain, it's really important that you understand that what you do here, this is not for film or close-up. This is theatrical for the stage. So everything that we do is going to be exaggerated on purpose so that you can see it from far away. We're going to be using, I'm going back to the Denice character wheel. If you guys can see here, this is actually just called CK11 old character. I don't know if that's backwards or not, I don't know. But either way, I'm going to be working mostly with the light cream color here, and then this darker mid-brown here as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with, normally when I'm doing contour, I usually do the highlights first, and then I go back in and I go in with the dark color to do the shade. But today I'm actually going to start with the darker color first, and we're going to work our way backwards. There's a lot of things about old age that's really interesting, is that in order to create a realistic old age makeup, we're actually going to do things in an opposite way than you normally would. When you're doing highlight and shadow, usually highlight is something that's coming from above, because your lighting is usually from above. And then the shadows are going to be underneath, because that's where the shadows lie. If you have your bone structure, your shadows are going to be underneath. In old age makeup, it's actually the opposite. And the reason being is because the wrinkles actually inset, and because they inset, you're going to have highlights on the other side. Actually, I'm going to show you a really cool example. I'll be right back. I'll be back. Should I have this on hand? I'm going to show you, this is the towel trick. So I just took a regular paper towel and I fold it in half. Okay, and I'm going to nice good crease in there. And what happens is, when you open up this towel, if you see here, the crease actually has a highlight underneath, and the shadow is above, because of the way the fold, the crease, the wrinkle inside accepts light. So there's actually a light underneath. It's actually, you can see it a little bit better over on this side. The light is underneath, and then the shadow is above. Actually, that's exactly how it looks. Can you guys see? So that's what we're going to replicate in our wrinkles. It's also important to remember that when you guys are doing your wrinkles, that we have nice soft edges. Everything needs to be blended in to a certain degree, especially on the edges, because nothing is just a flat bump of a line. You can see in my natural wrinkles here in my smile line, you can see how the shadow is above and it's lighter underneath. It's just the way that works. So what we need in order to get this party started is you're gonna need at least 2 brushes. I like to use myself some really nice angle brushes, just flat angle brushes. They have a little bit of stiffness to them, so I can actually work them really nicely. You're gonna use 1 for your highlight color, and you're gonna use 1 for your darker shadow color. You don't want to mix back and forth because then it makes the colors muddy. It's really important that we keep nice crisp lines so that we can see those wrinkles really come to life. So we're gonna start with the darker color, and I'm gonna start with this brush here. What number is that one? This one is a Bdellium 763. I don't know if that's helpful for you, but that's what I'm using. You can use any kind of brushes that you like. Again, I like the smaller, finer, thinner angle brush. If we see how that works when you spin it, you see how nice and thin that is? And then it's got a nice, nice flat edge there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, because sanitation is important, I'm gonna take some of this brown and I'm gonna pop it on the back of my hand and work with it from there. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and take my highlight there as well, just so that we're ready. I'm gonna start with my brush, and we're gonna go in with this darker color here. I like to start from the top and work my way down. You guys, if you wanna do something else, live your life. I like to go with gravity. So in this case, what we're gonna do is it's important that you follow the lines of your own face, because when you're making faces for the stage, you want them to mimic what you actually have, so we're exaggerating what you naturally have. If you are so lucky and so young and so beautiful that you don't have any wrinkles, like Dee here, we're gonna have to make some up. But what I like to do is I like to first do a smile, and then we do like some scrunchy faces, so that way you can see where those lines naturally occur. So the first place, pardon me for just a second. Switch this around, there we go. So we're gonna start on the forehead. So what I want you to do is I want you to like give me the raised eyebrows. And if you guys can see, actually it's probably better if you turn this way a little bit. If you guys can see, go ahead and give me the raised eyebrows again. She actually has some naturally occurring lines. So I'm just gonna follow those lines. I like to start from the center and then work my way out, because once you get to the edges, you're gonna kind of flick your brush a little bit so it feathers it a little bit. We don't want a chunky edge. We want nice thin edges that just kind of blend out. So if you give me that, go ahead and relax your forehead. And I'm just gonna follow that line. Than I expected. Hold on. And you know what, guys? I'm gonna highly recommend that you guys do some practice on your arms so that you can work on your brush technique. I've been doing this 20 years, and sometimes even when I put my lines down, they're kind of goofy. What you can do to practice on your arm is actually just take your arm and just draw with your brush. And you just do strokes over and over and over again. And I don't know if you guys can see here what I'm doing or not, but in the center, it's a lot thicker. And as we go out towards the edge, we just kind of like let it trail off. You can flick it out. You can just lightly pull it out. But either way, we're trying to do nice, light lines at the end. You're gonna have thicker in the middle, okay? So back to D. So go ahead and give me that face again. I see one over here. Go ahead and let go. We're gonna follow this line here. Go ahead and do it again for me. By the way, not all lines on your forehead connect. In Dee's case, she's got one that kind of goes across, so she's got a couple that are split on either side because that's the way the muscles in her face are working. So we're gonna go with that. So I'm gonna go on up here. Okay, so we've got a nice solid line that goes straight across. We've got some that kind of go over her brow. I see another little one here that I'm just gonna kind of emphasize. P.S. You don't want to get too crazy with making too many lines, okay? Because from the stage is gonna, or from the audience, from the house, it's gonna look a little bit muddy if we just make a bunch of stuff everywhere. So we're gonna pick a few that look really, really bold that we want to emphasize, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we've got some nice solid creases here. And what we're gonna do is when you have these lines, what we're gonna do is we're gonna feather them up. Okay, so again, remember when we do highlight and shadow, normally you go down with your darker colors. In this case, we're going the opposite. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna brush off the excess color on my brush onto my hand. So we're gonna go back in for like a dry brushing technique. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna pull the color that you actually have already on the face, and we're gonna pull that up to blend it out. Okay, so I'm gonna start in the center. Actually, I'm gonna start here on this one. I'm just gonna lightly pull, it's probably kind of hard to see because I'm right-handed, but I'm gonna do my best. What's best also is to angle your brush up. So the flat part of your brush, I don't know if you guys can see, I'm trying to do this right. The flat part of your brush is laying against the line that you have, and you're gonna pull up. So that way we keep the line at the bottom really nice and crisp, and then we blend the color up. Can you see what I did there? It's probably hard. Let me see if I can pull that a little closer. So we pull this up so that the color fades out and blends in to the skin above it. I hope you can see what I'm doing there. So we got a nice crisp line underneath, and then we're fading that color up. Okay, so I'm gonna do that on her here. Also remember that when you're working on other people, including, also when you're working on yourself, that you're anchoring your finger instead of anchoring your hand. If we do this and lay your hand on her face, then it's gonna mess up what we've already done. So I usually just anchor with one finger, so that way I have control over my brush. Okay, I'm gonna pull up, keep those bottom lines nice and crisp. Pull up again. And this is the technique that you're gonna use all the way through the entire face. And again, I like to try to work from the center out. So we get a nice feathered edge on the ends. Okay, do you want to pull in a little closer so they can see? So if you can see what we did here is we just took those lines and feathered them up. So you get a nice little blend up on top and a nice crisp edge underneath. Okay, the next place you're going to go is right here in the center of the brow, in between the eyes. Now everybody, I love that she already went ahead and made her like mad face, and that's what gets you those lines. So go ahead and make that face, and you can see we're going to follow this line right here and this one right here. Okay, do that face again for me. She's got a couple little small dimples here, so I'm going to follow those as well. And again, everybody's face is different. If you've got those dimples, go for it. If you don't worry about it. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to feather that outward. So when you have up and down, you're going to go up with your shadow, and then you're going to go out with your shadow. Okay, so you can see that I'm laying my brush against that line and pulling out. So we've got a nice little blend there. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Laying it there. Oops, looks like we have a little extra. Laying it and pulling it out. And again, what I've done is I've wiped off the excess product of my brush, and I'm just using this as a dry brush technique. Okay, I want to show them what that looks like. So again, I laid right here, pull out, lay here, pull out, and it's just a nice soft little blend. Okay. So now once we go through there, we're going to do some lines around her eyes, because this is the fun one. All right, so where I'm going to start is I'm going to start with a place that almost every woman, when I do regular makeup, is like, can you please cover the bags underneath my eyes? It looks like I haven't slept in a year. Well, we're going to go add those in. I wanted to make it look like she hasn't slept in a long time. So again, we're going to take some of that color, and we're going to follow the pocket underneath her eye that she naturally has. So turn this way, the other way towards the camera. There we go. I'm going to follow this line. Ooh. I'm just going for it, guys. I'm going to follow this line here and basically drawing in where the socket of her eye is. Nice, crisp line. Okay, I'm going to do it on the other side. Right here. This is the part that everybody wants us to hide, but we're going to emphasize for this look. Okay, we can also go right here on the outer corner of the eye, just a little bit. Pull that depth in. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see that. Go ahead and lean in. Isn't that pretty? Okay, and then what I want you to do is I want you to look up for me, and I'm going to do a little bag right underneath her eye here, because we're really going for it, guys. Okay, and then we're going to do that same technique. Pull up. Okay, so I'm taking the excess off. I'm going to go in and pull it up and out. So that nice line that we just drew stays intact. You okay? Mm-hmm. When you're working near people's eyes, just heads up, including your own eyes, just be a little bit more gentle, because that area that's right underneath your eye is the thinnest skin that you have in your entire body. So make sure that you're really nice and careful, and that we're not sticking in there and pulling or tugging or whatever the case may be. We want to be nice to our people. So basically we're going in and feathering that out. Drawing in a nice, juicy eye bag. Feel pretty? Mm-hmm. Dee is such a good sport. Okay. And if you need to, you can also go back in and redefine that line a little bit. If anything looks like it's a little too smudgy and it feels like it needs to be defined a little more, you can go back in with a little bit of color and redefine that line, so it's nice and crisp. Okay, you want to show them what that looks like? Ooh, Dee, when was the last time you slept?
I'm so glad I don't have my glasses on. Everything's just blurry.
All right, so now we're gonna go around the outer eye and we're gonna draw in those crow's feet. As they say in Steel Magnolias, time marches on and sooner or later it marches across your face. So we're gonna draw in a couple lines. So I want you to give me a smile. That's actually how you get these particular ones, is from your smile. Dee obviously smiles a lot. That's okay, I got him too. All right, it's not a bad thing, you guys. Keep smiling. All right, so I can see those lines there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna exaggerate them out a little bit, because Dee doesn't really have super defined lines, which is really great for her. I'm sure she uses moisturizer and does all the things she's supposed to do. And again, choose only a few lines. You only want to do 3 or 4 lines. If you go in and do 18 lines, it's probably not going to read from stage. What we're trying to do is show the deeper ones so that you have a higher contrast. So we're going in and we're basically making some real nice deep cuts. And then when you get below the eye line, you want to actually have them curve down a little bit, because that also shows that gravity, that sagging. So we're going to go back here and I'm going to pull just the ends down a little bit. Just so that you can see them a little. You can turn that way. There we go. So we've got 3 on this side. Let's see what happens on the other side. Go ahead, give him a smile. All right, relax. Here. Smile for me again. Okay, we're gonna have to make some. Relax, because you don't have very many over here. She's lucky, you guys. Lucky, lucky girl. All right. So now we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna feather that up. Take off the excess, because basically what you're doing is you're pulling from what's already on her skin. I'm gonna pull those up. I'm curious, is anybody out there following along and doing it with me? Or is everybody just taking notes?
I see a lot of note taking.
Notes are good. Notes are good. what I would love is to see you guys doing this at home and then send me pictures of what you guys have done. A little interactive moment.
Amber Sneed is just watching the master do her work.
Oh, Amber, you silly.
Bonus points if anyone's scaring anybody with their makeup.
Yeah. Love that. All right. So let's go over here. I'm going to pull this one up as well. I apologize, this is not super interesting as far as conversation-wise. But again, if you guys have questions, feel free to jump in. I'm happy to answer as I go. I'm going to go back and redefine one of these lines over here, give it a nice crisp edge. And again, if you don't get this right the first time, don't worry about it. Practice makes perfect. And again, if you're worried about where you're going and what your technique is with your brush, just work on your arm. Your arm is like the easiest canvas to work on because it's nice and flat and smooth, and you got plenty of room to do it on. Make your mistakes, totally okay. All right, so the next place that we're gonna go is we're going here to the nasolabial folds. Smile lines, if you will. All right, so Dee's got a lovely smile. I'm gonna follow what she already has. And you can go a little bit darker on these because I mean, your mouth, especially if you're in musical theater, is where you're gonna be singing from, where you're delivering dialogue. Your mouth is where a lot of people are looking a lot of the time so that they can get the information that they need. And it's also where all your expressions come from. Smiles, sad, mad. All of that is gonna be connected here right in this little area. So we're gonna go a little darker on purpose. Are you excited about that?
So excited.
All right, so we're jumping in. A little darker, a little deeper with that angle brush. You see, I'm going over a couple times just to be on the safe side. And once I get to the bottom, I'm actually gonna curl them in a little bit and feather them down. This part right here around your mouth is really definitive. Okay, again, we're gonna go in and we're gonna feather up. Feeling good?
Yeah.
Super pretty?
Yes, gorgeous.
All right, so we're gonna feather that up and out. And actually, I might go in with just a little extra color and pull more in so that we get that a little bit more defined. When you get down towards the bottom, you're gonna kind of like narrow that closer.
This could be my Halloween makeup to be Susan Lucci.
Absolutely. Ooh, Susan Lucci. Different spots depending on what the facial structure is and what you're trying to accomplish. But for the most part, the rule of thumb is shade above, highlight below. And again, some people like to do the highlight first. I like to do the shade first on this one. In regular contour, I like to do highlight first. So everything, I feel like when I do Alt H, everything is backwards.
Great.
We're gonna Benjamin Button that. All right, so we're pulling out, making that nice and feathered out on this side. I'm gonna go on this side as well, do the same thing. And again, once we get down here, we're gonna taper that in a little bit. Also remember a couple of things. Here in your cheek area, you have a lot more flesh and muscle and technically fat, collagen. It's all more here. So you're gonna have actually more shadow here than you would on your forehead. You're gonna have more shadow here on the bottom of your forehead than you do at the top because there's nothing behind it. Literally behind your skin, it's like a thin layer of meat, and then you got your skull. Here, there's just a little bit more. So this will have a little bit more shading. Here, there's a whole lot more right here in your, because you've got your cheeks and your jowls and all that. So your depth will be deeper because you actually have more flesh to draw in, okay? So it's okay that these are thicker here. That this side looks way better. And by the way, guys, nothing is ever going to be 100% symmetrical. You can sometimes cheat it a little bit so that, because like everybody's faces are different. One of my eyes is a little higher than the other. One of my eyebrows is a little higher than the other. This eye closes a lot more than, I don't know, this is the way my body was made. Everybody's a little bit off. So if you need to correct for something, you can. And if you don't get it 100% symmetrical, it's kind of okay, because your eye doesn't necessarily want to see symmetry all the time. Your eye will look at things and say, oh, that's way too symmetrical. That's not naturally occurring, because nothing is ever 100% symmetrical. So a little asymmetry is okay. Okay, so the other place we're gonna go is right here in that divot. I'm gonna fill that in just a little bit. Okay, the other one that we're gonna do is right here on the corners of the mouth. You're so thrilled about that. All right, so go ahead and relax. And you can see here that we all have a little naturally occurring. We're gonna exaggerate that. Basically, it's basically a downturned mouth. Think grumpy cat. Okay, and we're just gonna pull that out just a little bit. We don't wanna do too much on this one, but having that line there is really important. Okay. Dee also has dimples. Go ahead and smile for me. She's got dimples here, so I'm gonna go ahead and accentuate those as well. Okay, and relax. And again, pulling out, up and out. And you see how I'm anchoring right here on her chin? I do it here, here, like 3 little spots. So that way, if I ever need to go back and touch up, I know exactly where I've touched to touch up. I don't know, guys. I'm just making it up as I go along. Not really. Okay, we're going out. Out, 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 out. Okay. Isn't that fun? Already getting to see some real serious lines happening. All right, so another thing that we're gonna do is right here under her chin. I'm just gonna do this little area right here. Just kind of like fill in just lightly. Rather than a line, I'm just gonna do just kind of a little blended light spot. And I'm also gonna follow just around, around her chin area, kind of accentuate that, because it also helps to accentuate that jowl when we get to really working on that. And again, it's feathering out. Okay. We're gonna go now along the jowl line, which is the super flattering look. Turn that way for me. Okay, I've already done some contour, but I'm actually gonna pull in a little bit more right here. So what I'm doing is I'm almost kind of connecting where that downturned line is. I'm not connecting, but I'm drawing an imaginary line there. And I'm gonna kind of make it like a little triangle here. And in this particular one, I am gonna go down. Because that's more of a regular shadow. We're actually we're creating a jowl rather than a wrinkle. So you can see we're gonna go right underneath the chin. And then we're gonna really make this, we're gonna draw this like curve to make it look like her skin is sagging. So I'm just kind of adding to what she already had in the initial contour. Turn towards me. I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go this one. It's kind of like an upside down Dracula point, like when you do the Widow's Peak. And we're gonna follow that around. Please tell me if I'm blocking the camera. I can always try to move around. Okay. All right, so the next thing that I like to do, now mind you, the age that we're kind of going for is kind of like probably like, this is a really tough thing to say because age is so, it's really hard to define some people's age. Like I'm 46. Some people say I don't look that age. Some people think I look older. Some people think I look younger. She's much younger than I am.
37.
But depending on what the age is, everybody ages differently. I'm trying to go for someone who's elderly in the probably like 65 to 75 range. Now, mind you, there's a lot of people who take really good care of their skin. So we're not trying to be insulting. It's just we're trying to define something so that way we can give a contrast to the younger people in the cast. All right? This is not about trying to be insulting. So I'm trying to go where the skin has given, the elasticity has been given out. You can do more lines, deeper lines to get even older. If you want to go something that's over that particular age, that's really grayed out, that's really feeble and much more delicate, I say, then you're probably going to do a lot more lines in a lot more places. This is probably the basics of what you want to do to age someone. If we're going to go a little further, I like to do lines here. If you look that way for me, I like to do lines here. I don't want to do too many, but I like to do some lines here because that also shows that the skin is sagged in different places. So it's not just a jowl, that you actually have lines that have formed over the years. And they don't go straight up and down. They're kind of curved a little bit back because again, they're coming down from the cheekbone. And that's kind of where you're setting it, is underneath the cheekbone. And again, it's usually up and out. I like to do these a little lighter and a little less dark. Same thing as lighter. A little less harsh, I think is the word that I'm looking for. If you really want to bring in some of that age. All right. Back around the nose, just to give a little bit more detail. As people age, the bulb of their nose everybody's ears and noses continue to grow as they get older. So the bulb of their nose is going to get a little bit rounder as they age. And then right here at the bridge of their nose, it starts to thin out. And then you can really see, like, when they were younger, if they broke their nose, it becomes really defined. This gives you the opportunity to create some kind of fun things if you want to show a little bit more of a character type look. You can actually change the shape of their nose a little bit. So I go in just kind of here on the sides lightly, and I'm going to thin this out right here. And then I'm going to exaggerate by making a curve here on the nose, so it's a little bit rounder. And again, we're just going to bring that shade back and out. Also, some people like to do a little bit here, like couple little lines that kind of go across the bridge of the nose. And again, that shows more sagging. So I give you a couple of those. That's super fun. Thanks. Hey, no problem. The last thing, now in Dee's particular case, the way the muscles of her lips work, I'm actually going to go a little bit above the lip here and pull that particular wrinkle up. Again, everybody's face is a little bit different. If you have a wrinkle that nobody else has, play it up. Why not?
I'm gonna unmute you, Psych. I want you to ask your question to Denise.
Yeah.
Okay, I was wondering, like, what if there's a character you're doing the makeup for, and the character, you know, is older, but their specific character, like, they use makeup to try and hide their age? Like, would you do the old age, but then put makeup on top of it, or?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because you're gonna have people, like, you might have a woman who's very vain, but she's, you know, she's 75 years old and she wears a lot of powder. So in that case, what I would do is I would probably start with this particular look and then go over to exaggerate some of those features with like, a lot of people, especially from that particular era, was that?
Make me a madame.
Make you a madame. Use like a really harsh, bright orange undertone lipstick that will contrast with the old age makeup that you're wearing, that you're doing. Some is because you want to have those kind of higher contrast colors to offset the work that you're doing here. And you're also going to want to make sure that some of that lip color bleeds a little bit, because with the cracks in your skin, a lot of times it doesn't stay put the way it's supposed to be. So yeah, you start with this and then you go over with the colors that you want so that you can create the look that you want. And again, you're not trying to make it messy, but that is a really good thing because you're going to do attention to detail. That's where being a designer really comes into play, because you can make some really cool looks with doing some very subtle things to enhance that particular age. Good question. All right. So in this case, like I said, Dee has a cool little line right here. So I'm emphasizing that. It is a cool, I'm trying to be nice. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of color on her lip, and you guys will see why in a minute. I'm going to take that same color and actually just open just a little more. I'm just going to put it right across her lip, and I'm going to make sure that I get a nice even coat. Tilt down just a little. Thank you. And then tilt up. When I'm doing lips for old age, I don't go in and make a pretty, you know, top Cupid's bow or anything like that. I just want to cover the basic lip so that there's a base color there. And these, you know, these shadowy browns are awesome for that, because it's not something that's, it's not garish in any way, and it's not meant to emphasize her beauty. It's just to define that particular spot on her face. Okay, cool. All right, so we've got the basics here. Now what I'm gonna do is go in with the highlights, all right? I have a new brush, just same type of brush, just a different one. And I'm gonna go in with my cream color, and we're gonna go do all the highlights. Everything is under, okay? So we're gonna start at the top. Now, you guys can do this however you like. If you guys wanna work on the forehead first, do the highlights and the shadows all at the same time, then move on to a different part of the face, knock yourself out. I personally like to kind of go in and define where I'm gonna go, and then go in and fill out the highlights in later. You do you. I'm not here to tell you that my way is the only way. You have to do what makes sense to you. If it takes you more time to go and do all the shadow first, great, don't do it that way. Do what works for you. But this is what works for me. All right, so now I'm going to take my highlight color, and if you guys can see on my brush, I've only dipped one side. The other side, it's gonna have a little bit over on the other side, but for the most part, I'm only working from one side. And I'm gonna do the exact opposite, and actually I'll show you guys on my arm. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go right up against the line that I created, and you can see that my brush is laying flat, so that the edge of my brush goes right along the edge of the line that I created. Now, I don't know if you guys can see that. Yeah, it's probably better that way. So I drew my line straight across and take the excess, and then I'm just gonna pull down. Pull it down. So we keep a nice crisp line between the shadow on top and the highlight underneath, okay? And again, as I drew that, I just kept my brush flat up against my skin and flat up against the line that I already created, so they're not getting blended into. You do not want to blend those two colors together. You want that nice crisp line in between, okay? So let's get to it. Start up here. Again, I like to start in the middle and then work my way back. Go over here. And I don't know if you guys can see or not, but I'm not going back and dipping a lot into product. Using too much product, you're going to get muddy. So start with a little. If you need to go back and add more later, do that. But start with a little, add more later. Because once you start getting muddy, then we start to lose all the definition of what we were trying to create in the first place. So I don't know if you guys can see those lines. You want to go in real quick? I haven't done any of the blending yet, but those lines are pretty subtle, but they're there. Okay, so now we're just going to pull down. Again, I'm taking my brush and laying it flat and just pulling down using the product that's already on the brush and already on the skin. You look so pretty.
I'm actually extremely relaxed. I don't know how Cornelius didn't nod off in your chair.
To be completely honest, over the years, I've had a lot of people fall asleep in my chair. And it's not just because I'm a terrible conversationalist. There's something very soothing about having somebody work on your face.
It's even more soothing than a haircut.
That scalp massage, it's real. Okay, so we're just pulling down, pulling down, pulling down. Okay, oh, that looks pretty great. Okay, you want to get in there? So can you guys see how there's a nice crisp line and then there's a blend that comes down? And it really helps show those, give those lines that definition that we're looking for. Are you having fun with this?
I am.
It's kind of cool. All right, so now we're gonna go do that on all the rest of the lines. Anything that's up and down, we're gonna go towards the center to do our highlights. Just following those lines. Oop. Guess I'm getting a new brush. Luckily, I have another one. All right. This is why it's always important to have more than one brush or to have brush cleaner on hand. Let's see. Which I do, but we don't have a lot of time, so I'm not going to sit here and waste your time by me cleaning brushes. Okay, so I'm laying flat and I'm pulling inward. Nice and feathery. Get those mad lines going. And also, just remember, if you guys end up putting too much product on, like your highlight or whatever, you can just take your brush, just scoop it off. Like on this one, I got a little too much, so I'm just gonna scoop some of it out and wipe it on my hand.
Denise, I just want to let you know we've got 5 minutes left in the session.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize we were that far.
I know.
It went so fast, you guys.
It does.
All right, so you guys get the basics of what we're trying to do here. Another thing that we want to end up doing is to bring in a little bit of color. Sometimes people have broken capillaries. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but right here around the nose and here in the cheeks, a lot of folks, the little teeny tiny capillaries that are underneath the skin, they become exposed because the skin gets thinner. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that color, this red color that's in your character wheel, we're going to scoop a little bit of that out. And if you guys end up getting that basic Ben Nye kit, it comes with a little stipple sponge. It looks like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to just it's literally a stipple sponge, and you use a stipple motion, which is a patting motion. And you're going to take and you're going to put a little bit of that color right here around the tip of the nose and right here in this cheek area. And you just literally tap, 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 tap. And it gives you just a little bit of color for those broken capillaries. You can do it right here underneath the lip. The other thing before we go, I want to make sure I show you guys this part for your lips. Remember we did that base color? And put a little bit of powder, blow out gently. Blow out again. Okay, now I want you to give me a fishy kiss face. Okay, this is how you do your lips. You take the light color. Let's see, where's my brush? This one. Take the light color. And actually, you know, sometimes I just like to do it with my finger because it's a lot easier. Just take your finger, just go right over. Just gently tap, 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 tap. Okay, relax. She's already got lines. Lips are pretty much already done. You can go back in with your dark color and just extend some of those lip lines out. So they go a little deeper. And go up. Just follow what you already have. That nice, dry, cracked lip look. That is oh so attractive. The other thing you can do is you can take some of that white color, that creamy color, dip your finger in. Eyebrows. We're gonna lighten those eyebrows right up. I think I used a little too much on you. You don't have as many hairs in your eyebrows. I forget that you had the tattoos done. But you just take that cream, tilt up, pat it right in there. I like to go against the grain a little bit so it's not just laying on top, but to really get it in there. And instantly, you got some more age. How's that look? That's kind of fun, right? Then from here, obviously, you're gonna go in and you're gonna powder, 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 powder. Remember that when you're powdering, you're doing it in a stipple motion. It's pat, 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 pat. Don't rub anything, because that means that you would just go in and do all the work that you just did. You rub it and it blurs out everything that you were just trying to accomplish. So we do our lines, we do the contour color, highlights, make sure you get those lips done, put in a little color in those eyebrows, and you're good to go.
Fantastic. Wow. Look at that.
I'd love to see what you guys come up with. So if you guys can take some of these techniques and employ them. Gigi, is there a way that they can send something to us?
Sure. You know what would be great is if you want to post it on Instagram and tag 3D Theatricals.
Yeah, and tag me. Tag Denice Paxton official. I would love to see what you guys come up with.
It's Denice with a C.
That's right.
Denice at Denice Paxton official. And so we'll see you on when you post those. That'd be great. I think that's the best way.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. This is a lot of fun, you guys. Thanks so much for coming, and I look forward to seeing what you guys do.